Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Come on in. Get set up on YouTube. Guiding Light, how are you? Hi, April. Hi, Rachel. Happy Monday. How are you? Hello. Hi, Forty. Happy Monday. How's everybody? Tonight, we're going to be talking about self-transformation and the process of change. We're in a very powerful two-door week. We started on the full moon, and now we're going to the new moon on April 20th. So it's a very powerful time. And I want to talk about how we can make this the time where we really transform, we really shed. And these changes, if we continue to work with them and take advantage of this 2-week opportunity, they're going to last the whole year. This is the kind of energy we're in. This is the month of transformation and shedding, releasing like a snake, and letting go of those things that are stopping us from moving forward. Our trigger is part of it. Well, yeah, a trigger. What's a trigger? Think about what is a trigger? Why are you triggered? Fascinating. Yeah, why are you triggered is a healing moment. So where your trigger is your wound. And that's where you're stuck in a pattern or a behavior or an action that is no longer serving you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to give you a new and ancient perspective on what is really change, like what is real change, what is real self-transformation, and how can we really make a change in our life. Okay. Rachel says, I just got test results back from allergy and sensitivity tests. I'm having a hard time figuring out what I can eat. Hey, remember we talked about that, Rachel, in one of your readings? I remember that. I told you about how you're going to be focusing on what you're eating now and how, it's going to change how you eat. That was that change I was talking about. Okay, April says it's not healed. Yeah, so when we have a trigger, it means there's something that's rubbing us. We're becoming a sharp knife, and that's how the ancestors would say it. You're becoming a sharp knife, like they call it a tek paw. It's a flint blade. How you're becoming that flint blade. That's what this whole transformation process really is. It's like a trigger is telling you like, ooh, this is the place you need to be polished. You're not polished here. It's dull here. That's what a trigger is. Yeah. That's what a trigger is. Yeah. That's because when we're triggered, it's bringing up something from our childhood or something that we have not resolved. And until we heal it, it's going to keep rubbing us, keep rubbing us, keep rubbing us. But we want to become sharp. That's what the whole teachings are about, is like to become sharp, a sharp mind. A sharp mind thinks clearly and quickly. And it has no time for those triggers. Because when you're sharp, it's like you could see it already. Oh, that's where I'm stuck. That's where it is. So today we're going to be talking about some powerful concepts actually, and about this month, because this month is the time of what we call baby spring. Baby spring is here. And in the ancient teachings, everything is about Grandmother Earth. And Grandmother Earth has a story. She has a story that she reflects through nature. And the story that she's reflecting right now is that of a young girl, a maiden. You know how they have those ancient Greek stories too about Demeter and Persephone and all these things that are really talking about Mother Earth's seasons and times. And for the ancients, it was always about aligning to the cosmic energies, specifically around the sun, the moon, and Venus. And then there's other planets that we connect to, but those were like the strongest alignments. And this time was known as grandmother's young youth, you know, like a young girl, like a maiden, like a young girl, like a little girl, let's say 7 to 10 years old. So grandmother Earth right now, she is in her baby spring mode. And that means that we too, because we are her children, are in a baby spring mode. And so what the ancestors would do during this time is that they would do rituals around shedding their old skin, okay, and changing the parts of themselves that they weren't happy with, that they were like, you know, I always get stuck in this part. And that's why it's perfect. Nicole said, you know, what about triggers? Because yeah, the triggers are going to be coming up to show everybody, you know, oh, this is where we're not healed. This is not where we're healed. So I wanted to show a few, you know, screenshots. I'm old school, so I have my screenshots here. But we're going to talk about transformation. And this is a very powerful time from now until April 20th, and really till the end of the month, for to do these transformation, you know, rituals and ceremonies and stuff to do that. So I wanted to show you. This is from my teacher. He was showing us this, but let's turn that off. This is the process a snake goes through. Can you all see that? But in the beginning, when a snake is about to shed its skin, you see right here? It's just starting, okay? Just starting. Hello. With the head, right? And the reason a snake sheds its skin is not because it says, oh, you know, I'm getting tired of that skin. It sheds its skin because it becomes incredibly painful to live in this skin. And that is really the catalyst of change. Okay, the real catalyst of change is your life is uncomfortable. Something you're like, I can't keep going this way. You know how like when an addict hits rock bottom and it takes that rock bottom to change, it's everything. Anything in your life right now, if you want to change it, it almost has to hit that rock bottom in order for you to like start peeking that head out. Okay. So the first thing that the snake does to change is it starts rubbing its head on like a rock or some kind of sharp surface to remove and cut that old skin. And it starts with the head. And it's incredibly very difficult, very painful, and very uncomfortable what the snake actually has to do in order to shed its skin. And then it has to go to the rest of the body. And this right here, when they're doing that part of the body, they have to go through a lot of curves and things to get that skin off. And this is the part where they almost die. They could almost die from their change and transformation because it's a very difficult, painful process, right? And then they start coming to the end of the process. Now, you know, they see, oh yeah, I'm starting to see, oh yeah, there's an end to this thing. It says that it's the skin is completely inside out. It's completely inside out. It has to turn the skin inside out. And this process right here is where they almost die. And then they get to, you know, more shedding. I think this is the inside out, this part where they're almost to the end, sorry. And then this, you know, they get their new skin. You know, and I know this isn't very clear, but I wanted to kind of show you what the process is. Because this actually is a perfect metaphor and analogy to what happens when we too go through change. And see, the ancient Toltec ancestors said that this process is mimicking the process that Mother Earth goes through too, that we as parent or as children of Mother Earth go through. And the snake represents vibrations. So just think about the snake as a vibration. And so in the ancient teachings, they had so many different types of snake, which represented different types of vibration. And then when we look at it, you know, this is the language, this is the symbology of it. These are different types of snakes. And we're not going to go through all of it because it's very complicated, but just to look at, you know, that they made pictures and diagrams, and this is a whole language around what change and transformation looks like, and how do we as humans go through this process of change and transformation. It is a very deep practice. They had many paths, many roads, many ways that we go through these transformations. And it was a beautiful way of understanding it, because they said not only do we as humans go through this transformation, but Mother Earth herself is constantly telling us the story of transformation, and how in transformation, it is not by choice that we change. Our lives, the season has to get almost so difficult that we change or die. And that's what the story of the snake tells us when it sheds its skin. And some snakes shed their skin monthly, and some snakes do it yearly. But I thought it was so fascinating, because if you think about the snake, and also lizards shed too. So it's not just snakes, but snake is a really powerful metaphor. But see, what they do is they leave it all in one piece. All of it is in one piece. They completely shed everything. Your spider sheds. Spider, yeah, there's some spiders that shed too. That's true. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Looks like he's riding a snake. Yeah, because the snake in the ancient language is talking about vibrations of Mother Earth, and now what they call magnetic fields. You know how they talk about the vortex in Sedona, the this, the that. They're talking about vibrations, magnetisms, energies that influence our shift and our change and our transformation. And that's what this energy of this month is. It's not even an energy, I'm sorry. It's a vibration. I think frequency is another word you could use, but it's a vibration that when we tap into it, we can make this month the month of significant change, and not just significant change for today, tomorrow, but for the whole year, and then even our whole lives. If we are really committed to the process, and we're willing to go into that deeper space to see, where am I not healed? What is stopping me from my healing process? Where am I ready to shed my old skin? Okay. And it has to be in one piece. And so in the Navajo way, we call this the beauty way. We call this, there's a ceremony that when you go into it, you go in as one person, and then when you come out as a whole other person. You come out as a whole other person. And that's a very incredibly difficult ceremony to go through, because you have to take off all your old skin. And I don't even think we can imagine what that is. Unless you have been through the process, you wouldn't understand what it is, because it's something that is unique and different for every person, especially depending on how long you have been living with this suffering and pain, and your readiness to let it go. So I want you to think about in your own life, you know, what are you really ready to shed? And one of the things that I think is so interesting is this concept of narcissism, and how narcissism stops us from shifting and changing and transforming. And a lot of people say, well, I'm not narcissistic. But you know what I thought was so funny about narcissism is that narcissism isn't about like how great you think you are, or you know how narcissistic people are completely selfish, they don't have any empathy towards others, all that stuff. But it's also how low you think of yourself. Narcissism is anything that has to do with you only focusing on yourself and not serving, not doing anything for another. And it can manifest either in people feeling like, you know, they are the center of everything, or that they are the lowest of everything. That's the interesting thing about it, because nobody talks about that part. Most people focus on, well, that's narcissistic, you know, he's narcissistic. Because the story of narcissism is that narcissist, he looked into the lake. He didn't like anybody. He was never a person who engaged in the world. But one day he fell in love with his self in the mirror, and not the mirror, the lake. He looked and he's like, oh my God, wow, I'm so, you know, great and beautiful and this and that. And he couldn't stop looking at himself to the point of death. And that's what narcissism is like when you're so overly, you know, involved and indulging into self that you forget there's a whole world out here of other people and things, and that you could develop other stuff, not just the way you look. And so the story of narcissism is that when you are narcissistic, you can also be somebody who's very much a victim and stuck in your past. And that's the other part of narcissism that is fascinating, because we don't focus on that part. But there's a lot of people in this you know, place, this time and space, who are stuck in tragedy. You know, we've talked about that all winter, the trauma, right? You're stuck in trauma. And in order to really take advantage of this next chapter, it's about not getting over. Like, you know, I don't like that when people say, oh, just get over it. It's not about getting over it. It's about moving forward with your battle scars. You know, you have all those scars from life. Wear them proudly. You're a warrior. You wear them with pride and you move forward. But what happens is people become a victim and stuck in that place and space. And then there's no transformation that can happen because we're too involved with looking at ourself. It's too much self, you know, it's not self-awareness, it's just self. Like nothing else in the world exists. And you know that, you know, that's what they call the toxic people and all that stuff, right? Is that when they are just so stuck in their past, and it's just because they almost like narcissists, they fell in love with the reflection. They couldn't move on, even good, bad, right, wrong. That's the funny thing about humanity. And the funnier thing is that it hasn't changed for thousands, millions of years, because these ancient teachings talk about it. That's why you're like, oh, they talk about it. They have a roadmap. Because they knew it, and they just, you know, passed it on and on and on. And it's to this day, we're still passing. Oh, it's your birthday month too. Oh yeah, April. Duh. Happy birthday, April. All right. So how's everybody tonight? I just kind of jumped in. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to come back and see some of these comments. Energy, frequency, vibration. Oh, why did that? Oh, sorry. my screen suddenly got big. Thank you for all the gifts. Yes, you love it. Blissful Oracle. So I'm gonna keep going. Does anybody have any questions on anything I said so far? So snakes are about shedding and transformation and vibrations. And then, you know, part of the looking at ourselves and the self-awareness is overcoming both our tragedies and the things that we don't want to look at. Okay. Everything that, like we talked about earlier, I think that was a perfect beginning to today, is triggers. Anything that triggers you, anything that you're constantly complaining about, anything that is making you miserable and suffer, that causes you suffering in your life, are the areas to look at. And the areas that you have problems in. See, everybody has something different. Some people it's money, some people it's love, some people it's health, some people it's just a general overall unhappiness. Some people it comes and goes, is depending on the situation and whatever. But everybody has a point of suffering in their life. And this is the perfect month to look at that point of suffering and decide to make a long-lasting change. And that's really what we're talking about, is how to make a long-lasting change. Bye, T Diddy. T Diddy. You can watch the replay on YouTube anytime. So hopefully I can see you on the next one. But how to make a long-lasting change. Because when you think about it, think about how everybody at the beginning of the new year, what do they say? Oh, I'm going to have a New Year's resolution. And then somewhere between, New Year's and January 15th, the New Year's resolution is usually out the window. Did anybody stick to their New Year's resolution? Has anybody stuck to it? You're laughing, blissful oracle. I don't make resolutions because it's silly. It's also the wrong time to make a resolution because it's January. January is not the month. That's when you're in the cold winter and you're not feeling like changing. You're like feeling like cocooning. But this is baby spring. And so in baby spring, this is the time of renovation. That's what this whole thing is out. You know how now, if you go to any hardware store, people are fixing their house, cleaning things. They're talking about renovation. So just like Mother Earth is regenerating, we're cleaning, we're, blowing our leaves, we're taking out the trash, we're doing all that stuff, we're sweeping. That's what this month is about, sweeping. The winds are usually blowing a lot because the season is changing. It's Mother Earth is renovating herself. And we too are mirroring that because we're in alignment with Mother Nature. And as we align to that vibration, we start to make the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical changes needed so that we can, grow, we can change, we can renovate, we can go deeper into our lives. The problem is that we have really lost this in our society. It's kind of an intuitive, natural thing, but we don't really think about it. People do know, oh, I gotta, weather is better, so I'm gonna go do this, that, I'm gonna clean my car, I'm gonna this, it's kind of a natural process that we all go through, like, oh, I gotta clean all this yard stuff. We think about changing our house, organizing, spring clean. That's what this whole time is about, is that we are preparing for the full blooming of spring. So then Mother Nature, she goes from young girl to, teenager. That's what the spring is about. And teenagers, they're out, they're doing stuff, they're flowering. There's all these flowers emerging, tulips and all that. They're starting to bloom. And then, summer comes, and then summer is more about activity, getting the harvest ready and growing things and going out with friends. And, then Mother Nature is preparing to become a mother. She's become a mother, because in that time, after you flower, you attract a mate, you reproduce, and you become a mother. Okay. And then she has that mother time, which is like summer into fall. And then fall, she starts, heading more now down to her, later years. As fall starts, she's a mother, and she starts letting go because the kids start getting older and maturing, and they come out of the house. And then winter comes, and she's the crone. She's the wise woman. She's the elder. And then that's the basic story. I mean, there's more to it, but that's the basic story of Mother Nature and her cycles. And so for us as human beings living on Mother Earth, the children of Mother Earth, we too are living with those cycles. And so right now we're in the baby spring, we're spring cleaning, we're getting ready. And so this month, especially if you can do it from now until the 20th, like the 20th is when things really are in the transformation mode. Like that new moon that's coming, it's an eclipse. So watch how things change. I'm going to say write down any and all dreams you have during this period, whether you think they're significant or not. Write down all emotions, triggers, places where you know you don't want to go forward into spring and summer and fall and the rest of this year with that. It could be a relationship, it could be health, it could be a job, it could be a multiple things, it could be all of it. But think about, where is my point of suffering right now? And what is the change that is needed to get me from out of this suffering? That's the part that might take more meditation work, is really, what is the change? And I'm going to give you some clues on that, because real change, that's what we're really talking about today. It requires three things. There's three levels to change. The first thing about change is it is either going to come from your behavior, your habits, and what we call your discipline. That's real change. It's in, what are my daily habits keeping me in suffering? What are my behaviors, my thoughts? What are the things that I do on a consistent basis that I know are no good for me? So the easiest one is like, if you're trying to get in shape or something, then obviously it's going to be your food, right? And your activity levels, right? So then it might be really connected to your health. It might be a health issue. You might have an injured knee or foot or something that's prohibiting you. So you start looking at, okay, well, what are the things I can do that I can do every day? So this is the thing about change, is it has to be an everyday thing. And that's why most resolutions don't work. Most goals don't work, because it's coming from that position of like, oh, here's this, but there's no roadmap, there's no how. And for those of you who are on our Meditation Monday a few weeks ago, we did that meditation where you found your new road. So this is really just a continuation of that. Is like, you looked at your old road and then now you look at your new road and you see how different they are. Okay, this old road had rugged edges and it was steep and this and that. And this new road, a lot of you were saying, oh, it's flowers, it's this, it's that, And if you weren't on the meditation, you can go back and watch it on my YouTube channel. And it's the meditation that talks about changing the road. And that would be helpful if you really want to look at your roads. So this time now we're talking about, okay, so you've seen your old road, you've seen your new road. Now, what is the physical changes that I have to make daily to make this a permanent change in my life? And so in the ancient way, in the Toltec ways, they describe this as your feet. I'm going to try to go back to the snake here. I'm sorry. So in the codexes, whenever they were talking about change, they would look at the feet. Okay. So we look at the feet. Okay. Which way are the feet pointing? They're pointing forward. Okay. And the feet represent your behavior and your habits. And so that's why we look at the feet, because that's where real change happens, is on the base level, or what they call now your root chakra, but they called it your feet. And your feet are where your behaviors are, because the feet lead you forward. Your feet balance your whole body and make you go forward. And in fact, they said that a human being, in the ancient meaning of it, was a balanced being. And if you look at all indigenous teachings, I always talk about balance, harmony, how to live in beauty. It's all about your feet. Where are your feet going? So that's your first question. Where are my feet going? What are my habits? What do I do on a daily basis? Start being aware. That's what we call the self-awareness. Instead of just looking at yourself, it's more about analyzing yourself now, because it's all about your feet. Where are your feet going? The next level of change, which automatically happens once you change your behaviors and habits, is your hands and arms here. And what these represent is action. What action am I taking leading to change and transformation? So once you figure out what's my behavior and habits that are causing me suffering and pain, then you start thinking, well, what's the action necessary? What's the action? And the action is already like, once you understand what the behavior and pattern is, the action is already a natural byproduct of it. You already know what it is, right? Especially depending on, what it is, if it's health or if it's finances and money. So if you say, okay, what is blocking me from my finances and money? And you start digging into it and you're like, I have a shopping addiction. I love to buy stuff. I buy this, I buy that, shopping, so you start thinking about ways you can stop shopping, ways you can save money. Maybe it's a simple cut here and there, right? But it's an everyday pattern and habit. So the first thing you would look at is, where do I spend money every day? What is a habit that I could do without that is actually too expensive that I could, swap it out? Maybe I could find a cheaper alternative. Maybe I could do without it, right? And then you start making a financial goal. Amazon, exactly. You start making a financial goal and you say, okay, well, look, and then maybe you might have to look at your Amazon bill or your credit card and be like, dang, I spent a lot on that. And you start, reflecting on it and you go, okay, my action this year is I'm going to start spending less on Amazon. I'm not going to go to Amazon. I'm going to delete that app, actually, right? And then the next level of change, and this is the level that everybody starts with. Everybody thinks this is the beginning level, but in fact, it's the last level, and it's the feet, or I'm sorry, it's the face. It's the face and feet, but it's the face. Yeah, everybody change their face and they think, oh, I changed my face. They go get plastic surgery, they go do whatever, and they think the look is going to change their life, but their life is still the same, no matter how much they change their face. And that's why the ancestors said the face is the last thing to change, not the first thing. It's the last thing to change because it's your physical appearance. It's once you make this change, your physical appearance will change too. And it's the last level because it starts with your behaviors and actions, then it moves into your face, your physical. So it goes behavior, action, physical, face, the look. And so that's what, we're talking about, is that you can't start with the face. The face is the last thing to change. And then at that point, when you're at that point of transformation, when your face changes, what we're really saying is that people will start noticing the change. That's the physical part of it. They'll be like, dang, you look like you're doing well. I noticed that, you're looking better. You look less stressed, all that stuff. It's a physical change that will happen. And then you've all been through that where you're like, even if you didn't do anything, if you didn't change anything on your face, you still wear the same clothes, you still everything. Nothing physically has changed, but it's an energetic vibrational change that people will notice and they'll say, gosh, you look different. Did you change your hair? Did you do something? I just can't figure it out. You're like, yeah, I changed. I made a change. So strange because I've always had chronic pain in my feet. And when meditating on my path, I was first staring at my feet and then yeah, you just started spending less. Yeah. You lost 100 pounds doing shadow work. See, it's literally true. You look like a whole different person, right? And then at that point, that's a dramatic change. That's like that snake who just took off his whole body. That's the big change that we're talking about. That's the big change. When you make a big change in your life, that's what we're talking about. You dumped 100 pounds. Congratulations. Because in order to have done that, you had to seriously look at your life and change the whole direction of it, starting with the feet. And like Rachel said, she'd been having feet problems. And when she was meditating, she was looking at her feet. See, that's how this ancient symbology talks. Even when you don't understand the symbols, and this is why when you're learning how to do readings and stuff, if you have a natural gift and you learn how to do readings, it's really important you understand this ancient symbology, because you might get a message from spirit and the spirits will say, there's a feet problem here, there's a foot problem here, and you think it's an actual foot problem, and you're sitting there thinking like, what is wrong with your feet? And sometimes it is a physical problem. They'll say, yeah, my feet are killing me. But what's the real issue with the feet? Is it a physical pain? Is it like some kind of nerve issue or damage or accident or something that happened? Or is it a mental, emotional, spiritual pain, which is different? And so spirit will speak to us and say, there's a foot problem. There's something wrong with this person, because it's their behaviors that are causing the blockage. Most people go to readings because they're stuck. And when you're stuck in life, that's why a reading is really good, because the reader can say, well, you're stuck in your life because this, and that. But if the reader doesn't actually know what the symbology is, that's when you get those missed readings where people say, I don't understand this reading. This reading didn't make any sense. It's not that the spirit world didn't speak right or the person didn't have a gift or anything. It's the interpretation of what they saw that they couldn't quite get. And that's why readings are really difficult to do, because you get the message, but it's in spirit's message, it's in spirit language. And so that's why I feel like it's very important, if you want to know a spiritual path and you want to walk your spiritual path, you have to understand these ancient concepts, and that will make you more aware of your own life and help guide and direct others. You see, in the ancient practices, in order to work with people, especially in this level of awakening and self-transformation and spirituality and all that stuff, you would have had to have gone through a very difficult, rigorous training in order to become that person. And see, in these codexes, if you look at these symbols, like I was showing you the snake and stuff, and they interpret it as gods, but actually it's not gods. It's just, these are potentials, or what they call archetypes, but they weren't worship. These were just principles. But you see how they would wear these attire, right? See, all of this attire was somebody who went through a very difficult training to become this potential, this energy, this frequency. And they would walk and they would have a specific purpose in the community, right? And this is also the process of transformation. So this is what we're talking about. This is what transformation and change looks like. It looks like this. So if you ever wanted to know what does change look like, it looks like that. You see all that blood coming out? That wasn't a sacrifice. That's why they misread these codexes. Nothing about this stuff is about sacrificing people or anything. This is about vitality. He's blind. See, he can't see. He's in the inner world now. He's in the midst of transformation, and he's connecting to his blood and his ancestors, and he's in it. He's in the transformation. And you see, it don't look good. It looks painful. Yeah, it looks busy. But that right there is a painful process. Change is painful, right? And there's the snake again, but he's all cut up. You see, they're talking a whole story about transformation and these two forces that are helping you and working with you, the good, bad, right, wrong. All the daytime influences the daylight and the nighttime. They are both influential. So light and dark, good and bad, those are influential in our transformation. You have to have good and you have to have bad to change. And like I said in the beginning, change comes when your old skin is incredibly uncomfortable and you can't live in it anymore. It's stopping you from seeing, it's painful. You got to change. But in order to change, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to change my face. You can't change your face. You can change your face. It's just not going to change anything else. Okay. And maybe if it's just your face, like you have a pimple or something that's really your biggest cause of suffering in your life, then yeah, go, get your face fixed. Go get the pimple popped or whatever. But usually, especially at this juncture in time, and if you're watching this live stream, you're ready to change something in your life. You're ready to change it. Yeah. How do we let our old selves die off for transformation? Good question. How do we do that? The thing about it is that your old self is not going to die. It's going to transform. So you know how there's that law where it says, energy is neither destroyed, it's only transformed, it's transmuted, it changes. And so this is why when you look at your habit of or your behavior of suffering, like we'll take the spending too much, right? And so obviously the pain is debt, right? It's going to be like debt or never having enough money or always feeling lack or survival because you're spending too much. Okay. So that part of self is still there, right? It's the part of self that when you start to dig into it, it's like, why do I really do that? What am I covering or what am I hiding from? Or what does shopping really do for me? What's the feeling? So then you go deeper into the feeling, and it might be, low self-esteem, low self-worth. It might be, how shopping gives you that euphoria and that feeling of being high, and you get into that and you transform that. And you say, what other things can bring me that feeling? What can I do to replace this that doesn't cause me suffering? Oh, maybe I'll go to the gym. Oh, maybe I'll start a new hobby or, something. I'll go outside and do nature walks. Like you have to transform it until you no longer crave it or want it. That's the whole thing, is like first looking at what is the behavior and pattern and what do I need to do to replace it or change it, to transform it. Because it's incredibly hard to just stop something that you've been doing for a very long time if you don't renovate it or fix it or change it. And this is what we're calling what is the foundational work, your feet, that has to be done before the rest can be built. And that's the beginning. And that's why it's really like a year-long process of really from going from this point into the final transformation. And I love how somebody on here said that they went through a 1-year process with weight loss with 100 pounds. They dropped 100 pounds in 1 year. That's exactly like in alignment with what I'm saying, is that they did the shadow work that was underneath their foundational work, and were able to do it the whole year and not only change their physical health, but their mental health, their emotional health, their spiritual health, because that's an entire journey of self-transformation. And then at the end, you just look completely different. And I bet when that person looks at pictures of themselves, they don't even recognize them. And it's not that they died, they transformed. See, that's the thing. That's me. I spend so much, and it's to distract me from responsibility. Yep. I had no choice. I was going to break. See, exactly. Constant chaos that's exactly what I'm talking about. She came to the point where it's like, either I do this or I die. I do this or, what is my life going to be like? That's the thing. You look like a different person. Yeah. I bet you don't recognize yourself. You probably look in the mirror and you're like, who's that? I heard it takes a really long time to adjust to your look. after that, because even after you still see yourself in that old way. And then that's a whole nother journey about seeing yourself in the new way, right? I'm not really sure how to do shadow work. Yeah. Shadow work is, it's not, there's no right or wrong way to do shadow work, honestly. But shadow work start with this process. What are my behaviors? What are my habits that I have to change? Like, that are causing me suffering, that I want to change. It's also a want thing. And this is why most people will not go through this process. It's starting again. Yeah. Year came on quickly too and hit you hard. Yeah. The change, that's why the ancestors, they said, when you're going through a transformation, you don't do it alone. You have a teacher, you have a mentor, you have a guide, you have a roadmap. Because when you start going into your subconscious mind, you don't know what's going to come up. You really don't. You don't know what's going to come up. And it's better to do it with somebody who has been through the process and can help you, that you trust, so that you can make it through the transformation. That's the whole thing, is you want to make it through the transformation, because in order to truly change, you have to be honest with yourself. And most people are not honest with themselves. And that's why we don't change. Oh, good. You got some help from a deity. Yeah, and a deity can help too, depending, on what you believe in. Self-sabotage is a big shadow for me. Yeah. Self-sabotage is why most people don't become successful in their life. Because every time you hit that certain spot, if you don't understand the behavior and the habit and the action that is causing that, and the emotion and the mental thing, like if you don't understand the depth of it, it'll get you every time. It'll get you every time. Self-sabotage is one of the most powerful gripping, shadows we have. All right. I'll take a breather right there. Because I know it's a lot. It's a lot. And this is the thing about this type of path is, this is a shamanic path. So a shamanic path is all about real change. It's not about false change. It's not about a psychic telling you what your future is. It's none of that stuff. It can be parts of it, because we can look at your chart. We can look at, when you were born and know your destiny, like what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. That's what your birthday and astrology and all that stuff will tell you, is what are you really capable of? Why did you come to this earth? And what is the best way to nurture and grow that? That's destiny, and that's what they call, the path chosen. However, for real change, real growth, real success, that's you. That's you. It's the decisions and choices, behaviors, and actions that you choose to take every day to become that destiny. And that's why these paths with these kind of leaders, they weren't for most people. Most people didn't go through this rigorous training and practice and stuff. And most of the normal, ordinary people wouldn't even know this stuff, because they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to live up to their greatest potential. And that's from ancient times. And it's especially true now, is that you could be born with the potential. You could be born with a gift. You could be born with something that nobody else on this earth can do. But this is the choice. Are you going to embrace it? Are you going to take it? Are you going to own it? Are you going to work it and craft it and mold it and, do the artistry necessary for you to walk it? Are you going to walk your path? And that's what the shamanic path is are you going to walk your path? And that's why it's a path of being a warrior and not, the other paths, which there's nothing wrong with that. But this is a path of transformation. And in transformation, it takes real hard work and sacrifice. Still fighting self-doubt, any ideas of relationships, romantic or not, are changing. Yeah, that's because you have to do the more of the emotional and spiritual work. You've done the physical work, you've changed patterns and habits, and you've changed your actions and you changed your physical look, but you still are working through emotional stuff and love. Not, because when you're very heavy, you had probably low self-esteem and so low self-value, and you didn't see your light, you didn't see yourself, you were numbing yourself. And then you come out of it and now you're getting all this attention and this, that, and the other, but it's still very uncomfortable because you still are now healing the emotional aspects around why it's hard to receive love. That's the emotional stuff. And that's, going to lead you into more transformational stuff and what we call heart work, working through your heart and receiving love, letting yourself receive the love that you rightfully deserve. Or your ideas of relationships. See, there's some distortion work too. You are getting spirit-led help and therapy. That's good. That's exactly what you need. Is when you're going through a transformation, you need to go through it with somebody for sure. Self-doubt is your problem with money. You have money. You know that this is another thing about America, is that we are 5% of the world's population and we are 80% of the consumers of the world's goods. Just think about that. 5% of the world's population and 80% of we're consuming everything in the world, basically. And then you wonder why we all have money problems. Yeah, there's a disparity. I just can't even imagine that. It's just crazy. I feel like we're like those Pac-Men that just eating everything. Goodness. You do good for a minute with self-talk and then it crumbles. Because it's not the head, it's the heart now. What you guys are talking about is deeper, it's the heart. It's beyond the habit is a result of a repressed emotion. So notice when you want to go shopping, notice when you want to go eat bad food, notice when you self-sabotage yourself. What is the emotion? And then you have to go deeper into that emotion. Like for some people it's anger, which is how some people are just constantly angry, but what is really underneath that is grief. It's deep grief. That's always what anger is about. And we as a society would rather you be angry than grieving, because we don't know how to deal with grief energy in general. That's why when people die, people just get all weird. Yeah, working on opening my heart. The thing about it is that when you're working on your heart, it's either one of two things that you first look at is, am I an over giver and an under receiver? Or am I an over receiver and an under giver? That'll tell you a lot about your emotional states. Hit that on the nail. Yeah, I work with a lot of this stuff. You were just saying that. I have felt a pull to the shamanic path. I feel like I have a lot of shadow work left to do. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about people who come on these lives. You guys are brave. All the others leave early. They're like, oh, she's talking about something I don't want to do. Because most people on this app, especially what I notice, is they're just constantly wanting the tarot reading. They're constantly wanting the quick, fast, easy, cheap answer. There's no fast, quick, easy to life. It's not real change, not real transformation. Not if you want to make your life the best. And that's why this type of path was not for everybody, even in ancient times, because most people want to just live a normal, fun, healthy, la-di-dee, la-di-do life. And they don't want to go through this. Okay. This is the chamber. This is the place. You would go into this door and you would go through all this ritual and all this ceremony, and finally you would sit here in the place of ego to fly out. Okay. And you could be stuck in this cave for years, I don't know, with your teachers and your masters, and you're just shedding, 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 letting go, becoming more braver, becoming more sacrificial, becoming more of a beautiful human being, becoming more of your God self, becoming more of that divine person that you were really born to be. That's what it is. Let's see. Oh, you healed your religious trauma, but there's still more. Yeah, there's always more. But you know, it's like you hit a wall. You changed the outer, but now you need help with the inner. Find a companion on the same goal. I guess we're going into relationships now, because now seeing how that happens. Did you see that shift right there? We went from spending and shopping. That's what we were talking about. And everybody's, oh yeah, I do that. I do that. You know, I'm on YouTube over here too. And people are saying, yeah, I do that. And then all of a sudden it goes to relationships. Two people right here and right here said, oh yeah, that's me with, that's my problem with relationship. So your shopping is related to your relationships, which then led us to the heart, which then we're talking about, you know, are you an under receiver and an over giver, or an over giver and an or an over receiver and under giver? So basically, are you balanced in your reciprocity of giving and take? Can you give and take? So the ancient teaching is this: can you unconditionally receive, and can you unconditionally give in equal amounts? You know, where it's not overly one way or another. This is what you've been doing for years, shedding over and over. Yeah, and the thing about it though, and this is what, if we're doing the shedding right, remember I told you some snakes shed every month. Like a woman who has a cycle, she sheds every month, right? And some people shed every year. Some snakes shed every year. And some snakes shed once in their whole life. So every snake is different, because everybody's path is different. Everybody's purpose is different. Everybody's traumas and upbringings and whatever and past lives and all that stuff is different. So your process is going to be different. It's going to be different depending on, you know, who you are and what you're doing here and what you're going through. But the thing is to remember that we want to shed like this. See? One big shed. One big, but it's a process, right? You don't just go from that to that. Yeah, it's a process. Okay? So give yourself a year. But you know, here's the process again, right? For those of you who didn't see earlier, that you start with your head, right? And then you move to this part, you know, that this is painful. This is like the most painful part, because the snake has to turn this old skin. This is the transformation inside out. That's the thing right there. If you get that, you get that. If you don't get it, you're gonna have to think about it. But I know there's some of you who got that. The change happens inside out, and it's a painful process. Okay, right there. And then when you're starting to get to the end of it, you really are starting to see the growth, the renovation, the transformation. You've been on this path for a long time, and then it's just that final little to get you there. Okay, but the process is an inside out. And then when you're done, there you are. There you are. There you are. Then you know you have your old skin. You're like, oh, that was my old skin. And that's your scar. That's your battle wound. That's the thing that you wear, and you're proud of it because you went through the process of turning it inside out. And that's when it becomes powerful. Like, you know, when people do TED Talks and speeches and they say, oh, you know, I was like Tony Robbins, that's how he became so famous, is that he told his story of transformation. He said, I used to be overweight. I used to sit on the couch all the time. I used to do this. Da, 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 da. And then one day I just, whatever his story was, but that's what made him a powerful motivational speaker, was that he went through the process of changing inside out. And how do you know you have went through the process of changing inside out? Is that it's a change that will last your life, your whole lifetime. That's an inside out transformation in process that I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Is that to go to that point where you just flipped your whole skin, you have had to have gone through that process, because it will last your whole life. That's how you know you did it right. That's what we call the beauty way. That's what we call real transformation. That's what we're talking about for this month of renovation, is a change that you are ready to make that will last your whole life, at least this year. Because I know that sounds scary, like my whole life, but it might be something you're just like ready to let go of, like this relationship thing. We went from shopping to relationship. So whoever said that, is that if you're ready to change relationships in your life, you're going to have to look at the common denominator in every relationship, which is you. That's the whole thing, is you're going to have to look at, what are my problems in relationship? What kind of people do I attract? Why have they not been good for me? Where am I stuck? And that's why I said, are you an overgiver or an undergiver? Because one of those things is out of balance in relationships, because relationships is about reciprocity, giving and receiving, giving and receiving, giving and receiving, giving and receiving, and love. And love is not calculating. Love is love. I accept your faults. I accept your beauty. I accept everything about you, good, bad, right, wrong. That's how a relationship works. The good has to outweigh the bad, right? Like if they're a liar, cheater, constantly using you, and you're an overgiver, you see that dynamic, overgiver attracting somebody who's an over receiver. They call that the narcissist empath thing, something like that. Or if you're just not able to receive love, all of your relationships will be out of need and desperation, because you're needing love from somebody. And the way you're going about getting that love is through desperation, which will lead you to make bad decisions and form bad habits and patterns in relationship. And that's why people constantly do the hamster wheel in relationships. They get out of one relationship and attract one that's very similar to it. Like, same pants, same skirt, walking in your life. It's because the necessary change to change hasn't been made in relationships, in the heart, in the emotions, in the feelings, in the habits, in the behavior and discipline and the actions. So if you have a certain type that's no good for you, you have to change that type. You have to change the pattern and behavior and the desperation around love in order to receive the perfect person for you. And in the ancient understanding, love wasn't a partnership, or marriage and companionship was not about lust and all that stuff like it is now. It was about who is the perfect person. And they have, they look at your chart for that. Who is the perfect person to complement me? And this is the person who's gonna support you in your destiny and purpose. And it had nothing to do initially with like love and attraction and lust. It was more that, wow, if I'm with this person, I'm gonna grow. I'm gonna be powerful. I'm gonna be able to do my purpose and my destiny. And I'm gonna help this person become powerful and live their destiny and their purpose. And we're gonna create the best life. That was the ancient understanding. And actually, when you read the files on Atlantis and stuff like that, that was how they found their partners in ancient Atlantis too. This is an ancient indigenous concept, is that you don't actually pick your partner based on what you want. I talk to a lot of people and they're always like, oh, I want this partner is really good looking and this and that is all superficial. And I'm like, well, what about their personality? What about their behavior? What kind of things are a deal breaker for you? And they don't even think about those things. They're like, huh? What are you talking about? No, I just want somebody with a sexy body and a tight abs or whatever. I'm like, okay, what about the rest of the stuff? What about the rest of the stuff? So in this ancient concept, it wasn't about tight abs and stuff. It was about, the person. Who are they? Why did they come to this earth? What is their purpose? What is their destiny? And does it match up with mine? Does it match up with mine? Is it going to complement it? Is it like, oh yeah, that person is good at this and I'm terrible at that. Oh, and I'm really good at this and they're terrible at that. Oh, okay, together, boom. You want it all. Yeah, everybody wants everything. I found me a mountain man to live my hippie dreams, but we have a hard time getting to the right spot to work together. Yeah, exactly. That's the working together is the complement. So that's the thing, is like the part of what we've been talking about this whole thing is like knowing thyself. And when you know yourself, you know what you're good at, you know what you're not good at, and you know who and what will complement you the best. Right. And then there are readings we can look at and say, oh, okay, yeah, this is a good match, or oh no, this is like I used to have a friend years ago, and before she would go on she was doing online dating, and before she would go on any date, she'd have me look at their charts and stuff. And what do you think of this person? What do you think of this person? What do you think? And she would send them to me for readings just to check them. And the funny thing about that is that all those guys ended up becoming like really good friends and clients. So some of them I still see to this day, and they'll book a reading with me. She sent me all kinds of clients unknowingly because she was dating. But she knew that stuff. She believed in it. She's like, I know you can look at this and see, is this my match? Know thyself. Yeah. You have to know thyself. Okay. So before we close today, I want to talk about a starting point for you to activate self-transformation. Okay. So this week, you're going to, well, not this week, from now until the 20th, I want you to do this exercise. If you're ready for transformation, if you don't want to change anything, then you don't do anything. Just stay as you are. But if you really want to change something in your life, then this is what you want to start looking at for this time. The first thing is your behaviors, habits, actions, and what is causing you suffering in your life. The habit, but you seen how the habit led us to relationships, so that like led us down a whole doorway of transformation. It's very uncomfortable to look and observe your own self. It's very uncomfortable. Look at that snake. Very uncomfortable. It's not supposed to be pleasant. If you're doing transformation the right way, it's not a pleasant process. It's incredibly difficult. You might think you're going to die. It's a very hard process because you are in some way, shape, or form releasing something that you have to now turn inside out. You have to turn it around. It's like the butterfly going into the cocoon. It has to struggle and fight. But when it's in the cocoon, what's it doing? It's metamorphosizing, it's changing, it's transforming. It's got to fight though at the end. When it's starting to come out of the cocoon, it has to fight for the transformation. It has to struggle. If it does not struggle, it dies. That's that part, like the snake, is when it's turning inside out. It's a very painful process. And that's why they say you don't do this like alone. You have to do it with a trusted guide, or have a way of doing it, or a roadmap of doing it, because otherwise your mind will play tricks on you. It will delude you. It will make you think you're further ahead than you are. It will tell you, you don't have to do that. It's stupid, because the mind doesn't want to let go, because even though it's uncomfortable, it's comfortable with where it is. That's what we're always battling, is comfort. Because when we're too comfortable, there's no change or transformation. It's only when life becomes incredibly difficult and unbearable do people change. That's the only time. If your life is comfortable, you're at the bar, you're at the club, you're partying, you're rocking, you don't want to change nothing. You're having a good time. It's only when you hit a certain age, you can't handle that liquor no more. Your whole life's a mess. You lost your family, you lost your friends, you lost your job, you're a total wreck, that you change. That's just human nature. That's mother nature. Is when your life is rock bottom, is like rock bottom was the starting place of my new life. That's what it is. And until people hit that rock bottom, they don't usually just willingly change. They don't say, wake up one day and say, yeah, I think I'll change this and that. No, you're at the bar, you're drinking, you're having a good time. Why are you gonna stop? No. You're gonna keep on going until something terrible happens. The Atlantis concept. Yeah, it's a different feeling, right? Sweet Pea. Yeah. Sweet Pea on YouTube is saying how she's in that more Atlantean type relationship of the complementary, which is also part of the Tonopoali, and it's so much different than the relationships before. And that's how it goes. No change when you're comfortable. This is 100% true. It's true. There's no change. And those are the most powerful stories, when you hear somebody say, I hit rock bottom and then I changed my life inside out. So Tiki's here. So that means I got to go soon. But let's go through the activators of self-transformation. So how can we now begin the process? This is the meditation work. This week, I want you to meditate on this. So get a pen and paper, or you can watch later on YouTube. But get a pen and paper. Okay. So what are the activators of self-transformation? Well, the first thing is you got to be patient. Okay. You got to be patient. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Be patient, because the process is not an overnight process. You didn't get here overnight. You're not going to get out of it overnight either. The snake does not shed all in one place. It starts with its head and it rubs itself against a rock. Okay. All right. I got to get my cat. Hold on one second. Can't jump up here on her own. And there's Peaky, and she's purring. Right, she always comes around at the end. Okay, so the first thing is, let's have patience with ourselves. Don't be impetuous. Don't try to rush through this process. Don't try to, run and say, okay, I'm all transformed. Hello. I'm from Northern Cali. Don't try to rush the process. Be patient with yourself and know it's going to be a process to change. Develop a deep sense of gratefulness. Be grateful for where you are, how you got there, even if you're at rock bottom, wherever you are. Be grateful for your life. Be grateful for the opportunity to change. Be grateful for the transformation that's happening. Be grateful for everything that comes in your path to help and assist you through this transformation, because gratitude and love are the highest vibrations that we can embody. They are also the highest vibrations of love and light and joy. It's like when you're extremely grateful, it changes everything in your life. In fact, when the ancestors, the instructions we were given was that when you wake up, you put that offering down on the sunrise, and you're in gratitude for this life, no matter what it looks like, no matter if you're going through the trail of tears, or if you're going through, the most joyful, exciting, awesome time in your life. You have to be grateful for it. Be grateful for it. That's Patience and gratitude are so important through transformation. These are what activate transformation and what will sustain your transformation. This is what is going to help you in the long run, not the short run. Because you want short stuff, it's fast, easy, and cheap. You want real change, is not fast, it's not easy, and it's not cheap. Okay, that's the difference. but this is the change that will last a lifetime, not 10 minutes. The next thing is you got to overcome your tragedies, your self-attachments, like that narcissist looking at yourself constantly and either saying, oh my God, my life is terrible, or I'm the best, I don't have to change nothing, I'm great. Both of those attitudes will lead you to nothing, okay? Because if you're constantly complaining and moaning and groaning and looking at, oh, well, this happened and that happened, you're never going to go anywhere. You're just never going to go anywhere. You're just going to be stuck in the never, never, and the poor me and the tragedies, okay? But, and then at the same time, if you think you're so great, you're so arrogant, you're so awesome, and everybody should just be like you, definitely you're never gonna change anything because you're great, you're awesome. Why? And I'm not saying you're not great, and I'm just saying you're not awesome. But if you have any point of suffering in your life, you have to look at that stuff. You have to let go of what it is that you're attached to that's comfortable, that is causing you pain and destruction. That's the whole key to this stuff. The next thing is get off social media. Just kidding. Sorry, TikTok. Sorry, you guys. Okay, just stick around until the end. But why I say you get off social media is because, have you noticed, especially those of you who have been around before social media? I know there's some of you who don't remember those days, but there are some of us who remember those days. And when you didn't have social media, you didn't compare yourself to other people as much. You weren't trying to live in a filter. You took a picture, it was really you. It wasn't all, like it is now. And then, like Instagram especially made it popular to have really polished, really perfect looking faces and bodies and all this stuff. And then people look at that and they start comparing and they start judging themselves. They start saying, well, dang, I don't look like that. Or, oh no, I got to change this. And the plastic surgery gets real popular, and face fillers and this and that and whatever becomes super popular because now people are comparing and judging and looking at it. Yeah, back in the day, it was what you saw is what you got. Life was great, April says. So you know what I'm talking about is when we didn't have those, things, or in your whole private life was private. You actually had a private life. You didn't have to post everything, and life was good. But now we're in the social media age, and it has great things to it. But now the practice is don't compare your life to another's life, because as we also know about social media, most of it's fake. Most of what people are bragging about and whatever is not the real thing. Because they'll be, oh, I'm in a beautiful, awesome relationship. And then a month later, they're divorcing, they're breaking up, they're whatever, right? Because it's delusional. Social media has kind of made us delusional. And so in order to really activate your self-transformation, take a media break, take a break from scrolling and looking and judging and comparing and that stuff. It's going to help your transformation. And also is to learn how to embrace uncertainty. That's a big one. So I paused there. Learn to embrace the unknown. This is the whole teachings in Buddhism. They're the masters of this stuff. I mean, that's why I love Buddhism so much, because they teach the core of what we as humans struggle with, is letting go. It is letting go. Letting go of whatever we don't know. Okay. And in Native teachings, we call it the great mystery. Let go of what you cannot change, like, what you cannot control, and what I mean about what you cannot change is what you cannot change in others. Because that's another problem in relationships, is you get in a relationship and then you love the person until you want to change everything. And when you want to change things about people, that's not truly loving that person. And so that's the biggest struggle, is like, how can we just learn to embrace what we don't know, We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know anything. We don't know if the next breath is going to come, but we trust. We trust that I'm going to keep breathing. We trust there's going to be a tomorrow. We trust that, you know, even if we don't know the way forward, that it'll work out. That's the whole thing, is how we can trust in the middle of change. Because the reason most people fear change is because they fear uncertainty. They fear the unknown. They fear, I don't know what's going to happen if I quit my job. I don't know what's going to happen if I leave this relationship. I don't know what's going to happen if I go on this date with this person. I don't know what's going to happen if I change my eating habits. You know, we don't know. We don't know. I don't know what's going to happen if I start school or end school or, you know, whatever it is. Whatever decision you make, you're not going to know the outcome. You're only going to live and experience and trust it. So we have to learn how to just go with it. And somebody earlier said, you know, going with the flow of your life. And we talked about that last meditation Monday. Another one is, and this is hard. This one I think is almost harder than the uncertainty, is embracing delayed gratification. No more fast food. You know, we want it now. We want it now. I want to do this now. That's a fast food mentality, you know, and you know where fast food leads you. Okay. It's a fast food mentality. And that's the problem with our society. It's just like TikTok and all this stuff is just getting faster. You know how Facebook got slow and TikTok got fast? we're at a low gratification, and now we're really at a low, like 3-second video. We're at a very low self-gratification because we want it now. So you're going to have to start practicing the art of no gratification, of slow or delayed gratification, cooking a meal. You know how our grandmothers used to cook, and, you know, they like roll out the dough, and they would, you know, take all day to cook this fabulous meal. That's what I mean by delay your gratification. Delay it. Instead of going for fast, easy, cheap, go for slow and hard work. That's not fun. That's not fun. That's why transformation is not easy, because that don't sound fun. But it's the daily, everyday habits that will lead to life-changing moments. Okay? Daily, everyday habits and actions that will lead to lifetime changes. We're not talking about tomorrow changes. We're talking about lifetime changes. And this is why it's going to take work. It's going to take, you know, patience. It's going to take gratitude. It's going to take releasing our shadows and our attachments and our pain to transform from the inside out, and not think, okay, well, I'm a hummingbird and that person's a butterfly, and I want to be a butterfly, not a hummingbird. Okay, it doesn't work that way. See how nature, she doesn't do that. You know, this cat sitting on my lap isn't sitting here wishing to be a dog. In fact, she's like bossing the dog around. So she's the top dog, you know, cat. But, you know, in nature, animals, they don't want, the wind doesn't want to be the fire, and the water doesn't want to be the air. It just doesn't work that way. And so why we as humans, why do we do that? What's the underlying problem of why we can't just love and accept ourselves and embrace ourselves and work with what we got? And that's what it's going to take to really activate change in your life. So is there any questions on any of that? We started making our own bread instead of store-bought. Oh, good. Much longer process, but worth the effort. Yeah, it's worth the effort. You know, when you start making your own bread, it's good. Oh, sorry, my cat got mad. Oh, you're welcome, Constant Chaos. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, everybody. And I hope that was helpful for you. And I'm looking forward to hearing about what you decide to transform in your life, and stick around. We'll talk more about this stuff. I'll be back next Monday. You're welcome. Yeah, maybe everybody in our group will start making bread. Homemade bread and share recipes. Oh, well, you're welcome, Christy. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Kelly. Hi, Karen. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today. I may pop on more, just depends on my schedule, but for sure I'll be back next Monday. And if you're not already on my YouTube, please subscribe. You can watch all of my lives on there, and also on Instagram, you can see when I go live. I posted on my stories. Too hot in Arizona for that. All righty. Well, love and blessings to everybody, and happy transformation.